There's a process, I think, where an individual finds their purpose in life. A painter, a songwriter, an artist, a filmmaker, at some point they realize this is their passion and this is what they want to do. For me, it was a ritual called the Sundance. And every year at the zenith of the heat of the sun, like right around the summer solstice, we would construct an arbor in the desert, and then you would dance for 4 days without eating food and without drinking water. And you would do like sweat lodges in the morning. These are these vapor baths to purify your body, your mind. It gives you the energy that you need to stay healthy. And it also harnesses the natural forces, like you dance to the sun, you dance to the earth, you dance to the trees, you dance to the corn. So you're putting your human existence in vibration with other important aspects of nature that are necessary to sustain human activity on the planet. And during this process, some of the elders, they see your dedication, they see your initiative, they see the love you have for these ways. So then they take a liking to you and they start sharing some of the more guarded methods of healing, of conducting ceremonies and using the various plants, using various techniques. And so then once I had some of these experiences, I felt comfortable in, first of all, I would do ceremonies in my own backyard. For many years, I wouldn't leave my backyard. Like people would come and they would come, would you come and do a ceremony in California or somewhere? And I was like, I'm okay, I'm just doing ceremonies in my backyard. And then eventually, I think I gained confidence to start traveling around. And like I said, now I've traveled to most of the continents and hundreds of cities, hundreds of different cultures, Arab cultures, India, various parts of Europe, all over Latin America, South America. And one thing I find interesting is that when you're sharing your cultures, you also acquire this universal human understanding, which kind of expands your arsenal when you're dealing with problems that people have. Health issues, psychological issues, relationship issues, just life in general in the modern society. By traveling around the world, you see there's universal methods to help humans rebalance themselves and reconnect with the love of the universe. You could say it this way, yeah. It's a simple truth, but nature holds everything for a happy existence. Like all our food comes from nature. The things we wear come from nature. The things we use to build our house come from nature. But then we construct these cities where nature is no longer evident, And if it is, it's like some polluted river that's going down, a cement duct that's been made or something like this. We've altered our existence in most cities. There are exceptions, of course. But the vast majority of people are, walking on concrete, driving, motor-driven, going into air-conditioned buildings, and they've lost the connection with nature. And why is nature so important? Philosophically, you could say, for example, this question, the mysteries of life, what is truth? What is life? You know, how should we live? These kind of things. The answers are right here in nature. Once the mind gets involved, anything can happen. You know, there's deformations of all types. And once a society separates itself from the natural way of life, these what's a good word for them? I'm searching for a word that doesn't sound so negative, but I would describe them as unnatural. I guess that's the best word to say. It's an unnatural way to live. And when you're living in an unnatural way, diseases happen. Psychological diseases, behavioral patterns, health habits, unnatural. One thing that I did learn by studying and researching about native culture in what they call the Western Hemisphere is that they had the utmost respect for nature and the natural order of life in a pristine setting, for example. They were very careful not to upset the natural environment, and they strove to fit into this perfect environment by having the least amount of impact. And in this way they were able to harness the maximum amount of the natural setting. And you can do this on an individual basis, and you can also help the society move back to this state. And this in itself will like as individually and also in terms of where humanity is going, there needs to be a rebalancing of the natural way of living with the modern technology that's been developed. I think if you take a holistic approach to this situation, so we exist on multiple levels. So to properly analyze a person's present state, I think you have to look at their physical being, you have to look at their mental processes, their emotional states, and then probably the most important part, which is the least amount of attention that receives, is your energetic self. And most cultures understand this. I mean, you could say spirit, you could say, you know, your chakra body, your astral body. In some societies, this is already being promoted as a foundation for health. You can see the correlation between the physical and the energetic body. For example, if you study the chakras and the endocrine system, and the hormones that are produced in the endocrine system are directly related to the energetic level of the chakras. So a person that has malfunctioning in their pineal gland that's not producing enough serotonin and they're depressed, if you could see their energetic body, you would see that their chakra is not functioning properly. The movement of the chakra would be, the light would be dull, the movement would be like this. And so on and so forth. Like people are suffering from anxiety, so their adrenals are overworked, because this is in nature. You're usually relaxed. You know, the color green is relaxing. The color blue is relaxing. To touch the earth is relaxing. So your adrenals are not overworked. You know, okay, if you see a wild animal, or you know, you're in a storm or something, then your body activates this for the necessary energy that you need. Whereas in a society, you're driving on a freeway, you know, you're going to go to a business meeting, you don't know if you're going to lose $1,000, you know, the traffic is, you're late, you're on a plane, your adrenals are overworked. So when you come to these ceremonies, what happens is that, for example, if we analyze our existence at the cellular, molecular, atomic level, there's a certain movement that's generating health. And when this movement is disturbed, cells malfunction. So then you have organs that malfunction, you have systems that malfunction. You have nervous systems, you have cancer cells. So at this level, when you're in a ceremony, you get down to this energetic level, which is the basis of this reality. You know, like people draw pictures of atoms and they draw these little marbles. They're not little marbles. The protons, neutrons, they're more like energetic light moving like this. There's nothing, it's more energetic than solid. But they teach the kids, oh, you have little marbles inside of you, you know, they're not marbles, it's not solid. So if people understand that their core, their true essence is energy, that everything around us is made of energy, when you're in the ceremony, you get to this level. So these kind of changes are fundamental and they're lasting. They reorganize the memory of your cells at a cellular level. This is why sometimes you can cure cancer, sometimes you can cure anxiety, because the organs themselves, the glands themselves, get a dose of what it means to be a healthy state. And this is why people come into ceremonies and then they throw away their prescription bottles, because they no longer need them. A lot of treatments that people receive, whether they're psychotherapy or pharmaceuticals, they're just something that it's a treatment, but it's not a cure. You know, to rehash over the traumatic experience a person had when they were a child doesn't necessarily mean you're curing it. Whereas in a ceremony, if the person transports themselves back to this moment and sees what happened under a different light, they can actually reorganize their emotional state. And they can recapture their self-worth, their self-love from a moment where this was taken from them. They can actually heal it. And so this is like working at the core, the energetic core of individuals. And this can be multiplied in a society. Like if you have people in positions of decision making, whether it's in business or politics or whatever strata of the society that they're in, even parents, simply parents, you become a better parent, you become a better director, you become a better CEO, you become a better senator. Why? Because now you've already resolved a lot of the personal issues that you have that are stem from ills that you weren't even responsible for. But now you've discovered a method to resolve them and you become part of the solution.
if we talk a little bit about the part of the plant itself in this equation of the ritual, there's the energetic ritual, but then there's also the, let's say, well, maybe it's wrong to say the biochemical component of the plant, but how do you fit that into the big puzzle of change? Well, how is it a catalyst or is it an essential ingredient of the process?
Well, we have to set some basic premises first. Like, for us, the earth is alive. You know, people come to my house, sometimes they're preaching different philosophies, religions, and you know, and I grab a piece of earth. You know, I just reach down and I grab some earth and I tell them, you see this? What do you call this? They go, that's dirt. I go, do you think it's alive? And they go, no, you know. I grab a rock. I tell them, do you think this has like energy? No, these things to them are inanimate. They don't contain life. They don't contain consciousness. And this is a result of this human separation from nature, where they view other things, even though in the biology class they'll tell you, no, the tree is alive. It has cells. It's doing photosynthesis. There's a process, you know. Crystals are growing, you know. They explain to you scientifically, but somehow you still don't equate this as consciousness. Human consciousness is it's a level of consciousness, and it's powerful level of consciousness, but there are much greater forces at play. And one of the greatest forces that affect humans is the earth consciousness, the planetary consciousness. The planet Earth has a consciousness, and humans are affecting the planet. So the planet itself is producing plants with chemicals, molecules, energetic substances that can heal the humans. It's my humble estimation that the planet is aware of what humans are, the course they're on. They're in a destructive course. A lot of destruction is being organized at different levels. Wars, pollution, radiation. This is dangerous for the planet. So the planet itself is producing, this is like part of the evolution. This is part of like a natural response of the planet to help remedy human misguided existence. So these plants, and there's so many of them, peyote, San Pedro, Wachuma, however you call it in your language. Many plants that contain chemicals that will help the DMT in your body come out. Acacia, jurema, Sumerian root. There's so many plants like this. Mushrooms, iboga. There's probably a long list that I'm at the moment not mentioning. But these plants, just like the food that we eat and the plants we use for our clothing and this, have a definite purpose on this planet, and it's to help the humans reorganize their metabolism, to reorganize their physical structures through the ingestion of these plants. And this was also prophesized. I should mention this because this is not something that should be taken lightly. The ancient civilizations of the continent that you call America had the ability to see into other realities, whether you want to call it the past or the future, if you want to use these words. They're just realities that are happening on other dimensions. And they had the ability to not only transport themselves, but to be able to return and explain to the people what was going to happen. So they foresaw that the Europeans were going to come and that the world was going to reach this point. And they also foresaw that the plants were going to be instrumental in remedying the ills that were created through this mass movement. And they stated it very clearly that there was going to be a time when these plants were going to be transported around the planet, and people were going to begin to understand the purpose of them. And this is the time that we're living. To be clear, this is not a haphazard coincidence. I think people should know that this was something that was predicted. And there's a juncture now, and people can be part of this new reality, because humanity is going to move forward. It always does. Humanity is always developing. Things are not going to stay the way they are. Things are going to transition. And intelligent people realize this, and a lot of intelligent people all across the planet are realizing that these plants now have a purpose in helping transform what we've developed up to this point into a more peaceful, more healthy environment for not only this generation, but the future generations. For example, in Oakland, California, you see this phenomenon now where people are legalizing marijuana all over the planet. Entire countries are legalizing mushrooms, marijuana, ayahuasca. Oakland, California, which is a modern metropolis, they just passed the city ordinance that legalized peyote, San Pedro, mushrooms, ayahuasca, iboga. I know those for a fact. They wrote a law that in this city, the use of these plants is now completely legal. And people in the Silicon Valley, there was 300 ayahuasca ceremonies last week in the Silicon Valley, according to a friend of mine who is kind of monitoring this movement. It's a movement. It's a mass movement.
So these are like startup engineers and CEOs are heading for it. Have you done any of those in Silicon?
I've had that opportunity. There was a few groups of, for example, there was this one group that had made substantial amounts with the cryptocurrencies, and they wanted to use their newfound fortunes to develop industries that do not pollute, that are beneficial for humanity, and they had already done some ayahuasca ceremonies for this purpose. They're like a coalition of people that made a fortune with the cryptocurrency, and they're using plants and also other techniques, and they asked me to do a peyote ceremony for them. And yeah, it was, I think each of these plants offer a different perspective, and different molecules, different ways to observe, and they actually create different ways of interpreting your reality. This is important to note, that you could see something, go to a peyote ceremony, go to ayahuasca ceremony, come back, and then be able to view this whole situation through a different perspective. It offers you different perspectives. And this is what people need. They need a different perspective on this situation, which is getting old. They need new perspectives, fresh perspectives, organic perspectives. Let's take politics, for example. There's people that get elected, and they're making decisions for people based on their own personal experience. Well, there was one person who had never tried peyote, but was against it. and was actively promoting legislation in the United States to criminalize the use of peyote, even though he never had tried it or experienced it. So some native people said, look, okay, you're an intelligent person, you're obviously been influenced by someone else's opinion about this plant that you've never even experienced. Why don't you try it? So he came into a ceremony, had the peyote experience, and did an about face and actually became instrumental in passing legislation that made it legal for native people to practice peyote ceremonies. Which this had a big impact on the development of this culture. Because there were, people were doing it anyway. It's just like people smoking pot anyway, they still somehow managed to do it. But when you can do it in a relaxed atmosphere, the benefits of this is much, more people can share it. There was some people that were involved in automobile manufacturing. And they came to peyote ceremony, and they were on the verge of transitioning into electric car production. And once they had the experience with peyote, they had like some solutions to some issues that they, this transition process, because a lot of the automobile factories are wondering, how are we going to transition from gasoline burning engines to, so they try hybrid, they try this. And then after they had this ceremony, this one guy, he brought some of his people from his think tank, 4 of them, and then they all ate this peyote, and then they wanted to use some. So I offered them some peyote to take to their think tank. And according to what they told me, that they've made like advancements in the whole production of not only electric cars, but automated cars, like for moving goods, for example. Why do you have to have, a person risking their life driving a car for 8 hours down a highway to transport goods? This person could be enjoying his life doing something else, besides sitting behind a wheel on a highway for 8 hours. So now they've developed these pilots that you just punch in destination and they arrive safely. Somebody puts a code that unlocks the vehicle, and then they get their goods. And this person that used to drive for 8 hours can learn to do something more productive.
Probably fishing out on the way. So if we go through some of the categories that you think where it's most useful, like I assume trauma is a big part of that.
Yes, this is the thing. On a massive level, there's entire societies that have trauma. The native people of the Americas they suffered one of the hugest traumas the Earth has ever seen, the planet has ever seen, I mean, there's people suffering from war, genocide, whether they're in the name of religion or in the name of whatever madness they create. The effect on an entire people, an entire nation, it leaves emotional scars that are passed on through generations. The planet is full of these, Oh, they tried to conquer us. Oh, they invaded us. Oh, we had a war with them, and the fathers tell the son, and the son tell the grandson, and we don't like those people because this is a big problem on the planet. And then if you look at it on a microcosm, all it takes is, a child going to school, for example. In the United States, this was very common. Myself, I suffered this. Where you, in a society like the United States, which is based on racism, It's based on racism. Let's just speak frankly, you know. The reason they took the land from the natives because they didn't think they were human beings. They go, those people living in the woods there, you know, in their teepees, growing their corn, you don't have to worry about them. We'll pay you to go kill them. You bring their heads, we'll give you $5 for each of those heads of those creatures living in the forest. You know, this is the slaves, you know. To live your whole life with irons on your, you know, forced labor like this. It takes racism to do this. So even when I was growing up, you know, it only takes like one teacher to, you know, slap you or insult you because of your race for you to have like deep emotional traumas against an entire society. You know, then they wonder why there's so many mass shootings and mass killings and all these, you know, the United States is riddled. They have more mental patients than they do physical patients. They have more prisoners in their cells than some countries have populations. You know, and this is a typical, I know I can speak about the United States because I live there. I'm sure every modern society has its characteristics of trauma that people are facing. So then, you know, I have nephews that spent 40 years in prison for some mistake that they made when they were a youth. And now here you have a man that's been in prison for 40 years. What do they know about society? And then they expect him to function normally, you know, get a job, you know, make a family, you know. So, and these, you know, people have gone to war, you know. There's people that have careers in armies. And what are they taught? They're taught to kill people. This is not natural, you know. And in our culture, the worst thing you could possibly do is kill another human being. And people don't understand this about our culture. They think that we were warring societies. We weren't. You know, we didn't develop all of these foods, you know, chocolate, peanuts, potatoes, tomatoes, chili, squash, amaranth, chia seeds, you know, the list goes on and on. You know, what the people used to eat to be healthy, natural beings, and their societies reflected this. They had massive collective fields of corn. You know, it was very collective living, not isolated. So when people come to ceremonies, one of the first things they remark in the morning after these indigenous ceremonies or indigenous dancing is that it was the first time they ever felt like they were part, that everybody loved everybody, that they really felt a part of a group. Maybe they had it in other instances, but it wasn't so intense. They really didn't feel it the same way. So this is healing traumas. This is healing individual traumas. Whether people realize it or not, we're all connected. They've proven this scientifically, that if your heart beats, the vibration of your heart is actually felt by another person. It's so subtle, but it's true. That your energetic field is actually felt by the other person, you know. Everything about your body language, everything's being picked up. We're all very connected. And in ceremonies, the people can actually observe this connection, and then it stays with them. They remember how to be connected on a human level, on a loving level, on a caring level, on a very fundamental level that it was taken away from them through some trauma. You know, like I said, if some teacher puts tape on your mouth and puts you in a corner, you're going to remember this. Or your parent does something to you, you know, God forbid, you know, your parent does something to you, abuses you. These are supposed to be the people that are supposed to be taking care of you, but because of the society, the parents have so much to deal with. They take it out on their own children, and then you're having a whole society based on parental abuse. And a lot of this is healed in these ceremonies. I must admit that I have seen a lot of people forgive their parents for shortcomings or abuses that they were subjugated to.
Can we talk a little bit about the other common symptom in modern society, which seems to be addiction? Not just chemical addiction, but addiction to anything that takes us away from the present, in a sense.
Addiction is fundamentally a lack of willpower to make the right choice. You have choices in life. Free will is something that is innate in human existence. This is one of the qualities that humans must understand, free will. Even though in modern societies it's not emphasized that you do have a free will to do what you want. On the contrary, societies are always saying, buy this, go here, do this, this is cool, this is not cool, this is, they try to peg you into a certain type of behavior. And their behavior is very addictive behavior. They're gearing you to addictive consumer behavior. Buy your coffee every morning. Upgrade your car every year. There's like these kind of... So you relax your own free will. Now you're letting other people make decisions for you. Addiction is it's a habit that has been acquired to fulfill a certain natural emotion or state that is lacking, basically, the way I understand it. It's like there was a person that came to... It became a habit. The first time she did it was because she wanted to give her own self attention. She didn't even care if anybody else saw it. She just wanted to be able to, it's like this type of, all she needed was love. She needed like self-love, People are taking a lot of substances because it does alter your emotional state. And people are unable to reach this state. They think they're unable. They become unable to do it unless they have a certain substance.
And there's a very, very important difference to be made between a substance and medicine. There's a lot of people who don't know about this. Confuse drugs with, I'm not going to touch drugs. Maybe you can...
Yes. This is a common mistake that people say, peyote? No, I don't take drugs. I don't like to get high. Something like this. In our history, once peyote became more prevalent in the native communities, what we were doing is we were taking people out of the gutters, because the number one commodity in reservations is alcohol. And, they have cheap wine, cheap beer, cheap whiskey, all of this. And they make it very accessible for the native people, because native people had none of this. And their genetics has very low tolerance for alcohol. They become alcoholics very easily. And what the peyotes were doing, they were taking all these people out of the bars, putting them in the teepees, loading them up with alcohol, and curing their alcoholism. And one of the main people who were fighting to keep peyote illegal were the whiskey companies and the beer companies.
Wait 1 second, we'll go back for 2 seconds. You said putting them in the teepees and giving them a lot of alcohol. You meant curing them of...
Yeah, here, drink till you can't drink anymore.
You're cured.
You're cured, yeah. Actually, okay, I'll retape that one. They were taking the people from the alleys and the gutters and the bars, putting them in the teepees and feeding them massive amounts of peyote. And some of these people actually became famous healers in our community. Imagine this guy that was laying in an alley drunk for 20 years, after eating peyote a few times, becomes a person that can actually heal people of various things. And he was laying drunk in an alley half of his life. What a waste, you know. And then what I said after that was that the beer companies and the whiskey companies were funding the legislators who were trying to make peyote illegal. And well, let me say a little bit more about addiction. Okay, you have a choice. You can do something that's good for you, healthy for you, or you can do something that's going to harm you. Now you have these two options. You can either drink a glass of water or a glass of whiskey. Which one are you going to drink?
Whiskey.
Okay, you can either do meditation, yoga, or something like this, you know, dance, ecstatic dancing or something. Or you can sit on the couch, grab the remote control and watch horror movies and you know, action thrillers and something that's going to give you a thrill. You have a choice. You know, you can, someone, you know, gets upset with you in a modern society, you know, you can react and use cuss words and, you know, use hand signals and send this back to them, or you can just, you know, offer this person some compassion, you know, maybe understand their paradigm is that, you know, they just got fired from their job or something, you know, try to have a little compassion. You can react or you can act. So we have choices every day, every moment. We have choices. Now, how do you discipline yourself to do only positive things, impeccably positive? Only use good words. Only eat good food. Only drink good things. When you're in a modern society, there's too many alternative bad choices. When you're in nature, what can you do? You can either go swimming in the beautiful lake, you can go walking down the natural path, you know, you could eat some good food. There's not too much bad choices that you can do. But the further you go into society, you have these dark places, you have weapons, you have manufactured drugs, you have all these laboratories producing all of these things. It's so much of that you begin to think that these are proper choices. Why else would there be so many drugstores? Why else would there be so many liquor stores? Why else would there be so many gun shops? If it wasn't proper to go and use these to resolve your problems, you know?
It's become normalized.
It's become normal to be abnormal.
Good one.
Yeah. So addiction is abnormal. Addiction is totally abnormal. People are hurting themselves. They're hurting others. And they're hurting nature. So using your free will to do only good things for yourself, only good things for others, and only good things for nature is going to create such a environment for yourself, your own field, your own reality. You're going to manifest so many good things because this is your vibration. Something people need to understand about energetic vibration is that whatever your vibration is, this is what you're going to receive. This is your signal to the universe of what you want. What you feel is what you desire. That's why it's so important to be in a good mood, to wake up in a good mood, to not let somebody take you out of your good mood, to go to sleep in a good mood, to eat in a good mood, to do everything in a good mood, to use good words that foster good moods, you know, happiness, joy. Choose these and you'll see the transformation in your own immediate reality. This is guaranteed. I will guarantee this. No money back.
So the rituals come with a guarantee.
Yeah.
It's nice. Well, a third aspect that I'd like to touch on is actually less with the energetic component, but how we manifest as biochemical creatures, and how profound the effect of energetic lifestyle is for health and physique. And how old are you now?
Well, I can't really disclose my age, but I'm getting close to 70. I'll just put that. I'm closer to 70 than 65, so how's that?
So you look like you're in great shape. How do you feel like you've been on this path for several decades? How much do you think that it has affected you physically? And I want to take one example. When I'm wearing glasses, and I'm probably 15, 20 years younger at this stage, but you said you had glasses for 20 years and then you gave them up. What other examples? Maybe use that as an example, but essentially what I'd like to hear is your understanding of the concept of age. And when we live an energetic lifestyle, we're not subjected to the same rules in terms of aging correlating with decrepitude. In the modern society, that has become the norm. I'm going to get sick when I'm 60 or 70. That's why I have health insurance and all that shit. Can we flip that equation around?
We can, and you touched on a few things. For example, time, energetic movement, understanding how the movement of the planets, the sun, the earth, the moon affect your personal life. And then incorporating the good habits, both thinking and practicing physically, into your daily habits, which will then foster promoting this longevity. And there's certain things that do promote longevity. There's studies that prove that if you do these things, you will live longer. Like one of them is like having more birthdays. The more birthdays you have, the longer you will live. This is a proven fact. Very powerful, very profound. No, for example, one that is very easily to do is like composting and gardening. Now these go hand in hand, because to be an effective gardener, you have to understand compost. But in our culture, this is a philosophy. This is called tlaso teo, which means the spirit of the love of the earth. The spirit of the love of the earth. So basically, you're taking what the earth gives us, you're taking what you need, and you're giving back to the earth, and then she's giving you back. So this is a process. It's not just gardening like, okay, you can put seeds and water them. But no, this is the whole understanding that the earth gives you and you give back. The earth gives you, you give back. This relationship with the earth. Composting, gardening. This has been proven to add years to your life just by understanding this energetic relationship, because things come in cycles. See, this is the thing about energy. It's cycles. Every 52 years, the earth gets into a position in its orbit around the sun. As it's going around the sun, other planets are moving, and every 52 years there's an energetic alignment. This was marked as an important time as it correlates to human life. And at 52 years, in our culture, this marks our close to like the middle point of, well, it's the end of a 52-year cycle. What I'm trying to explain to you is that there's 1 to 13 is your childhood, 13 to 26 is your young adult, 26 to 39 is your mature adult, 39 to 52 is your senior adult. And when you reach 52, you become like a child again. But now you're into your second phase. And this is considered the elder phase. In English, we could say elder. But you have to learn again. You become like a child, because in order to enter into this elder phase, so from 52 to 65, you are learning to become an elder. From 65 to 78, you're like a teenage elder. It's like you're having a second teenage period. And like this, until you reach 104, you become a senior elder. So this rejuvenates your perspective on life, because you're seeing, we actually only have 2 birthdays in our calendar. This is when the correlation of these cogs of time mesh every 52 years. The planets that you were born under, their configuration of the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything happens only every 52 years. So this is also marked in the societies that when this cycle happens on the calendar, what they do is they take all their clothes, their pots, things that are made from nature anyway. There wasn't a lot of, they would burn all of this. They would extinguish all the fires. And for 5 days, they would revisit what happened during the previous 52 years, the advancements that were made, etc. And then they would collectively create an intention for the progress into the next 52 years. And they would burn a lot of things, and then everybody would they would do this huge dance. Everybody would celebrate the new cycle, refresh everything, and then everybody would take a little bit of fire back to their homes and begin an entirely new cycle every 52 years.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so this was part of the culture. And what this, like, it's like this whole thing of non-attachment. In our culture, we didn't need to worry about non-attachment because they didn't have the concept of ownership, which is the basis of attachment. When you think you own something, you become attached to it. It wasn't uncommon for our people, and I tried this practice too. Sometimes people say, oh, that's a nice thing that you have on. They would like kind of freely give it, knowing that if they saw somebody else with something and they go, hey, I really like that, they would probably receive it. So it wasn't like, well, if I give you this, what am I going to wear? It was a sharing culture. It was a non-attached to material things. And this cycle, a lot of times in our culture, what they say is, okay, you're amassing material goods. So that when you reach this, you're supposed to have a certain amount of material goods. It's not how happy are you, how much happiness do you have, how much good are you influencing at this point. It's a lot of it is based on how many zeros you have on your bank account. How many houses do you have? What kind of car? Have you upgraded to a better? So the materialistic interpretation of human existence is a linear way of looking at things that at some point you reach an apex and then you begin to decline. Whereas the cyclical view of life is that, yeah, we're going to do this again, and then we're going to do it again, and then we're going to start again, and then we're going to start again. And we're just going to keep starting. There's this like new cycles constantly. So this helps in the mentality of always rejuvenating, refreshing your perspective, and also putting your focus on what is truly valuable in life, which in my estimation is not material goods. This is one of the main problems of modern society, is that they're too attached to material goods, and they spend their entire life trying to accumulate material, and they forget that the joy in life, happiness in life, is not based on material goods.
But you do observe a lot of examples on the physical healing side as well. Let's say, for example, chronic disease is a massive, it's almost a norm today. You can address some of these things by...
I have clear examples, and people that are probably more inclined to scientific research would probably ask for more proof, but all I can do is offer the story for what it is, and people can choose to believe it or not. But there was a woman in Perth, Australia, and there's enough people that were there that could attest to this. She came to one of the ceremonies, and she goes, I've been taking this prescription for my adrenals for 10 years. I was diagnosed with anxiety. I'm producing too much adrenaline, and I don't know if I should take these pills tonight or not. And I go, look, try it. You've been taking them for 10 years. Try one night without them and see how you feel in the morning. In the morning, she was, of course, peyote has this effect that it does regulate the production of hormones. So it's not only mental, it's physical. And she said that she felt like the best she had felt in 10 years since she was diagnosed with this. So I offered to her an amount of peyote to take for 13 days. I told her, just take this much amount every day instead of your pharmaceuticals. Put your pharmaceuticals away, eat this peyote. She came back the following year because I kind of on an annual route. I visit places like once a year. Usually I'm at a place and then I come the next year. I have like these routes, and then what I'm doing is establishing circles where people are familiar with this, choosing an individual that knows how to conduct the ceremonies, and supplying them with connections to receive the plant so that they can continue this on their own. So in the second visit that I did to Perth, she came and she offered her own testimony. She goes, the last year I ate this peyote for 13 days and I never took these pharmaceuticals again. And after 13 days, basically I was healed. 10 years of taking pharmaceuticals, one peyote ceremony, 13 days of peyote, and she was healed.
For a lot of people who come out of this experience, how easy, because you mentioned, for example, some Silicon Valley people and CEOs and professionals in the modern world. How well do they integrate these realizations or the energies into their old life, or is it more a question of adjusting your life after that to a new reality?
Yeah, I think if we see ourselves as observers, first of all, you have to have the quality of being an observer. Without being emotionally, like, don't take it personal. This axiom about don't take things personal. If you can attain this ability to observe other people, observe situations, and primarily observe your own self as objectively as possible. I'm sure people are going to say this is impossible. You can't be totally objective. Okay, I'm not arguing this. I'm just saying, do you even have the quality of being an observer without getting emotionally involved in the situation? Do you have this quality? If you have this quality, then you can walk into any situation, be an observer, and then using your new perspective, understand which choices would be the most beneficial to advance that situation to a higher level of productivity, of harmonious relationship. Let's say you go back to your wife and kids. The kids are watching TV. Okay, they shouldn't be watching TV. Okay, so what do? So you observe the situation. Your wife is, gossiping with, and this is not so good for her. So what do? You use your creativity to find alternatives to the present situation based upon your newfound understandings of what is better for human existence. You see your kid drinking a soda pop. Okay, so from now on, we're not going to buy soda pops. We're going to introduce them to a habit of drinking water like this. You just start applying what you've done, but you have to be, this is where we say you have to be disciplined. You have to reach this word impeccable. It seems like these words that are unattainable, but this is only a thought. It seems difficult. This is only a word. It's difficult to change this situation. You're already weaving the negative web around your reality. Don't use these words. This is very important. When you become aware, you become aware of your speech, aware of your responses. Whether it's, somebody at work, you're a supervisor, or it's your supervisor, you become aware of how you're using the words to relate, how your emotions, you become an observer of your own actions, your own words, your own thoughts. We say in our culture, you should be able to control, or at least have the ability to choose which emotions you feel, which thoughts you concentrate on, which words you choose, and of course, which actions you take. You should be in supreme control of this. And if you're not, then your free will is not so free. And then you're not really living your life to its utmost. Because you're letting other people direct, whether it's through habits, whether it's through the influences that other people have had on you, your decisions. And how you're relating to the people you love the most. The things that are the most important to you.
I'm moving towards the latter part of now. Don't worry, I'm not going to keep you here forever. But there's a kind of a sense of impending doom in the world today. We're reading a lot about global climate change and rising seas and toxin levels and whatnot, wars, and it seems to be accelerating. So a lot of people seem to be, number one, in denial of it. They don't integrate that into their planning or life at all. But in a sense, this is bringing it's almost causing more harm, the avoidance than anything else. How do you see the process of becoming part of a healthy change that can also contribute to the planet well, let me put it this way, phrase it differently. When we become more conscious of the need to be more connected, more close to nature, but we're overwhelmed by what we're seeing, how do we reconcile this for people who are trying to mostly make a living or survival out of daily life, but they are in this situation that even the environment is becoming more desperate for them?
The world is always changing, and the ancient people speak always of the previous destructions of civilization. And to wit, we have the remnants of previous civilizations that were much more advanced technologically than the present. Development of humans. They were much more advanced. Like, a lot of people think that we are really advanced, like that to them this is like, because we can have a cell phone, or because we have a car, or because you fly in a plane, like this is like, wow, like so advanced. Not so true, because to be civilized, really to have a civilization to begin with, just the word civilization in our culture means that everyone is fed, that there's no war, and that you're not harming nature. These are like fundamentals to classify the level of development of a society where you can say they are a civilization. You know, it's like one time somebody told me, what do you think about Western civilization? I said, I think that's a great idea. You know?
But only as an idea.
You know, I think the fundamental question is, how much importance does a person give to their own existence in comparison to whatever else is happening? Like, how much importance do they give to their own life and to their own death? You know, because both are on the same level. A human life is very short in comparison. It's very insignificant, but most humans try to develop their energy to where they have like the most impact they can. You know, this is like something they're striving for, you know. But in the process, sometimes they don't realize that they are actually causing a lot of destruction. It's the humans that are causing destruction in their quest to be great. You know, let's make America great again, even if it means putting oil in the rivers. As long as America's great, what do we care about oil in the rivers? What do we care about oil spills in the Gulf? The Gulf of Mexico, the beaches along the Gulf of Mexico were some of the most beautiful beaches 200 years ago. Like some of the most beautiful, imagine the most beautiful beaches in the world compared like this. Turquoise water, white sand. Because of the oil industry, now they're the most polluted beaches in the world. But what did they care? America has a lot of cars, a lot of freeways, a lot of, you know, they're the world capital of cars and all this. It's like this in the human too, you know. They don't realize that they are causing this destruction. They're causing it with their own pollution, you know. And you try to tell people to recycle, they go, it's too much trouble to separate the glass and then the cartons and then to take all the organic matter and put. It's so much easier just to throw it all in one plastic bag and dump it in the trash. It takes a little effort. And this is what people have to realize. It takes effort. It takes a commitment. It takes dedication to change your life, to change the present situation. We can't resolve conflicts between nations by using war anymore. It's too dangerous. You know, there's actually, how can you say, in our understanding of the galaxy, Native people have always understood that we are relatives of people living on distant planets. Like for us, this is not like a far-fetched idea. You know, like you tell this to another, you really believe there's other like humanoids living on other planets? No, for Native people, this is like understood. When the United States dropped atomic bombs on Japan during World War II, our closest neighbors became very concerned for the existence of humanity. Because they saw that we were on the brink of extinction, basically. If some other country had decided to retaliate with atomic bombs, it could have initiated an atomic war that would have annihilated most of human life. Maybe in some remote areas where the fallout didn't reach them or something, they would have survived. So this is a reality. But what they don't know is that there's other observers, and in the spiritual existence, it's not proper to let someone do this. So they could intervene, where in other instances they could not, because we were actually on the brink of annihilation. And in our culture, we have like drawings, prophecies, stories where the world leaders were advised not to follow this course of action. And they were instructed that if they did, that there was going to be serious consequences. And if they did choose an alternative method to resolving conflicts, they would be benefited with higher technology. That this technology can actually be downloaded into a human's consciousness through methods that we are totally unaware of. And we can help you create a society with higher technology, but you cannot use it for war. So one of the things that we need to do as humans is to really work actively for peace. This is a responsibility that we have to have. We actively have to work for peace on the planet. Everyone has to. Like, do not support war for any reason. Do not support violence against any type of war. We have to become, as humans on the planet, we have to be like peaceful people in order for the human consciousness to interact and re-attain the true high levels of technology that are going to change this doomsday scenario into one where humans are living. And it's not about a population explosion. The earth has enough resources to sustain the amount of people that are on the planet, believe it or not. It can. There have been larger civilizations. When the Europeans arrived to Mexico City, there was 1 million inhabitants just in Mexico City. And they had no diseases, there was no hunger, there was no war. People were living in community. 1 million people were living in Mexico City when the Spanish arrived. And so this is attainable. It's not something that's far-fetched. So this is why I refer to this previous civilizations and the present situation. And one of the critical things is that we need to stop using technology to destroy human life. And the situation is so bad that they have artificial intelligence with the capacity to take human life. They have robots that have weapons, and they've given them authority to kill humans. This is where we don't want to be. So if you're in any position, anywhere, to make a decision that promotes peace instead of war, where it promotes technology for the use of benefiting mankind and not for destroying human life, then you should always choose the peaceful way. And this is going to advance humanity.
Let me wrap up with something I heard from the first time I met you. I think it was in the morning we had a discussion, and you were talking about seeding shamans.
Which ones?
Seeding shamans.
Seeding shaman.
It's a mental picture that's like stuck with me. Tell me about that and how you see your role in that today, and what is the big plan in your mind?
Well, in most of these countries that I visited, there is always remnants of the native culture. There's always remnants of a time when people lived in harmony and balance with earth, with each other. And it's there. And it's in the consciousness. It's hereditary. It's passed on. Somehow when you do these ceremonies, these people are drawn, whether through destiny or through the power, higher powers, which mysteriously make these things happen. But then there's individuals that come that are endowed with these connections. And sometimes they're revealed through the ceremonies. You know, their ability to communicate, their ability to harness this vibration and share it, and the people in the community recognize it. And it's kind of like just following the natural process. And humans, there's always these people. I think at some point it was manipulated. You know, and these people were put at the service of people with ulterior motives. But now there's a reawakening of these individuals that have this gift to be able to communicate with higher vibration. And I'm always searching for these people wherever I go. And they could be of various ages, they could be men, they could be women. But usually the community will you can see their support for these individuals. So it's a natural process. And what I like to do is encourage these people to foster this gift by placing them in different roles in the ceremony till they acquire the knowledge and ability to conduct the ceremonies. And I've been quite successful. I think I could say approximately 25 people in different places, like maybe 6 women and the rest men, of different ages, of different cultures, different, people in, I can mention countries. Sometimes I'm a little leery to mention the countries because the people go, now you're drawing attention to what we're doing in our country, because in a lot of countries this is still illegal. It's not looked at. But I mean, Australia, Bali, all the countries I visited, there's always people that are, all the states like California, Florida, Mexico, all the states where I travel, there's always individuals that are already the natural leaders and the natural healers. And what we're doing is just giving them an opportunity to flower. And it can be rigorous. It does. And there's a lot of people that just see the glory of it, and maybe the intention is not necessarily for the community. And these people are pretty much, this is also very visible. And sometimes they have an opportunity, they may initiate this way, and they have an opportunity to transform into someone that's a little more conscious about their intention. So I always give everybody a chance, And sometimes it works, and then sometimes it doesn't. And so I'm not too worried about, like, people tell me, well, what about this guy? You really think this person could be? I said, well, give him a chance, He's just a human. He could possibly remedy the situation. And this is because in ancient civilizations, these people were recognized as probably children or during their teenager and then their young adult. And there was a system for having these individuals develop these abilities. Some of the more famous people in our culture, for example, this person named Quetzalcoatl, who was baptized with this name, because Quetzalcoatl for us means perfect harmony and balance between your spiritual existence, your ethereal, your energetic existence, and your material existence. And he was able to travel into these other realms. For example, he brought back corn for the native people of the continent. Because we do exist on different levels. Is how do you travel through these, and what can you do with these abilities? He's the one that taught the people how to build these particular structures that then harness the cosmic energy, the geometry. He was able to go and see what geometry was applicable in different dimensions and how to connect through the geometry, the architecture. So this is still abilities that people have, but they may not have an opportunity to utilize it. Who knows? They might be, like you said, they might be sitting in some think tank in Silicon Valley, and they could be creating something that could be for the benefit of all humanity, but maybe they need to go to a ceremony just to realize they have this. So like this, we're just kind of searching for the cream of humanity, so that the leaders, the true leaders, the ones that are going to take humanity to transcend to a peaceful, harmonious, natural
If you try to summarize or capture your own mission slash purpose in a sentence or two, what would it be?
To serve as much peyote to as many people as I can on the planet.
There's a in the final like postscript question the talking about planetary consciousness. Do you think that the planet is responding also to what we as a human race have done in the last 100 years or so, and with the changes we see in nature?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is I think obvious, you know. I think this is what happens is we lose the ability to interpret reality. And lots of times you see something happening on a planetary level and our consciousness is not at that level. We're not thinking planetary consciousness. Just like microorganisms, we exist as microorganisms, but we're not aware of what's happening internally. So your health, individual health, is important to feel this energetic existence. Planetary, also, we must feel the energy of the planet. Back in the 60s, the elders were totally alarmed. They were like, the planet is screaming. The planet is vomiting. The planet is trembling. The planet is like, you know, trying to wake up people, because we were really bent on, you know, I mean, pollution was rampant. Wars were like this, you know, and they felt it. They felt the earth calling. And this is why a lot of native people began to search, and they go, oh, okay, so this is the time, the earth has reached the time when we need to do these things. So this is part of the reason I'm here, is to fulfill a prophecy that is linked with the present situation, that when the planet reaches this, when the destruction of the planet reaches this proportion, the planet was going to respond with humans that are aware of this and are promoting changes on the planet and the human activity to save the planet, basically. We're trying to save the animals and to stop the destruction. It's very simple to save the planet. We just need to stop destroying it. Like people say, what do you think about pollution? I think you should stop polluting. This is what it is, you know, like just stop. What do you think about addiction? Yeah, stop taking it. That's how you cure it. Well, how do you cure addiction? Stop using. Yeah. So do good things, avoid doing bad things.
In a sense, you're like an ambassador of the plant.
The plant was, I think, looking for someone to transport it and to make it accessible. And this is a human reality, you know. It's just like a cook, you know, a chef or a gardener. Somebody needs to do the actual action so that the people can eat, you know. Not everybody's planting, not everybody's harvesting, not everybody's cooking. There's people that are doing that. Why? So people can eat. You know, and the planet needs peyote, it needs ayahuasca, it needs mushrooms, it needs San Pedro, it needs iboga, it needs these things to cure humanity. So there's people that need to do this. And I think, yeah, I think the plants consciously select individuals. I mean, I'm happy to be walking the culture. You know, I consider myself a living example of what living this way can, the benefits that you can receive by living a good life, humbly, You know, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a billion. You know, I have friends that are millionaires and billionaires, but that's not my ambition. Like I said, my goal is to transform humanity one heart at a time. And I know that peyote is good for your heart. So the more people I can serve peyote to, the more hearts I'm trying to open, one at a time.
Corre água cristalina, Mamário chuva na cachoeira, Pai Olorum abençoou. Eu vou pedir permissão ao Oxalá pra banhar na cachoeira para todos. Eu vou pedir permissão ao Oxalá pra banhar na cachoeira para todos. La cachoeira de Mamário chuva, corre água cristalina. Na cachoeira de Mamário Oxum, corre água cristalina no Papai Olorum. Mamário Oxum é na cachoeira, Pai Olorum abençoou. Eu vou pedir permissão ao Oxalá pra banhar na cachoeira para todos levar. Eu vou pedir permissão ao Oxalá pra banhar na cachoeira para todos.
Daqui dá.
Alright. We gotta pick a pocket flower. So we sing some songs to